Hey, I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue, and today we are making some amazing pulled pork using a pork picnic roast. And to get ready for this, I'm going to take you back in time to yesterday when we prepared our pork picnic, as well as show you how we're going to set up our Kamado Joe Jr. Now, why are we cooking on the Kamado Joe Jr. today? Well, a few of you have noticed some new toys starting to show up on the Junior, and I can't wait to do a bit of a deeper dive on them, as well as just showcase the versatility of the Joe Jr. for cooking an 8-pound pulled pork roast. Okay, so let's go through some of the new toys that we've got for our Junior. So the first one I'm actually not going to use today, and you can actually see is brand new. Now, I have used this before on my other grills and I absolutely loved it. It's an accessory from SmokeWare that adds dual level swivel capacity. Now, it doesn't fit great if we're going to use the heat deflector, so I definitely wouldn't be using it for a low and slow indirect, but it is amazing when you want to do something like chicken wings and you need just a little bit more capacity on your Joe Jr. It also fits the Big Green Egg Mini Max and Small, which is actually the last time that I bought one of these and loved it. So we're not going to use that today, but I did want to show you something that we'll have in a future video. What we will be using is, as per normal, our kick hash basket, and we're going to go ahead and place some wood chunks right on the bottom of that before we add our charcoal. As well, today we will be using a drip pan. Let me just go ahead and grab that. Also ordered the SmokeWare drip pan, and I love this size pan because it does two things really well for me. It fits the Joe Jr. heat deflector perfectly. It doesn't impede with any of the airflow around it. Plus, as an added bonus, it fits just barely, but it fits on our X accessory ring for the Kamado Joe Classic, and this helps provide great protection when using the slow roller, because I can hold it up a level on the divide and conquer rack and not have that those fat drippings be superheated and start to smoke and impede the flavor and the smoke profile that we're actually going after. So we're definitely going to be using that. And the one that you keen-eye observers have noticed the whole time is this vent cap. So something that throws a lot of people for a loop when they're first learning to smoke is how to control your vent settings. And Kamado Joe did an amazing job on the newer Classics and Big Joes with the Kontrol Tower top, as it solves this problem that I'm about to show you, which is when you have your vent setting, let's say we have it with a little bit of air, and you open your dome, you hear that click, and now that space that we had is gone. And sometimes even the top daisy wheel will move. Now, you can make it a little bit easier for you if you go ahead and rotate it so that the set screw is facing the dial and your Kamado Joe logo is to the side. That way, you know, that prevents this from moving because it's now hinged on the same axis, but it still can throw you for a bit of a loop. And so that's one of the things I love about the Kontrol Tower top, is it absolutely solves for movement of our temp settings, as well as adds some great weather protection when it rains. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and install our vent cap just like so. And this is the max airflow position, which I found we don't need on the Junior because this is more than enough air, and I don't think you can quite see in the camera, but we have 3 of these all around the Joe. And so some of the benefits of this, besides the ones I already covered in terms of, you know, no movement when we open and close the dome, we gain weather protection, but there's also significantly more air capacity from these 3 holes than what we got from our daisy wheel. And so there's really only 2 variables in cooking on a Kamado: is your fuel, too much, too little, the right amount, and airflow, is are we getting good airflow? And that is it for controlling fire. So when we add things like the kick hash basket at the bottom here of our grid, we're adding better airflow in the bottom. And when we do something like this on the top vent where we have better airflow, we are adding significantly more flexibility in terms of how stable it is and easy to control our grill. So let's go ahead and set up for today's fire. Okay, so as I mentioned, we've already got our wood chunks here on the bottom. For wood, I'm going to be using cherry today. And on the Junior, we want to go with a much, much smaller piece of wood. So this is, you know, kind of the size of your thumb versus a giant log. That won't burn very well in the Junior. And I'm trying to have them spaced out on the bottom basket where they're not touching one another. And that'll just allow us to get some great smoldering smoke from our charcoal on top of it. Let's go ahead and pour some charcoal in. Okay, so as you saw there in fast forward, what I was trying to do on the Junior in particular is I like to try and light that fire as much as we can sort of straight down the middle, so that way it has room to move around and often works its way towards the back. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave the bottom vent open, top vent in the open position here until we start to build some temperature in our dome. And since we're gonna be smoking today around 250 degrees or so, I'm gonna wait till I see 250 degrees, which I see already. That's just a bit of a false positive because that's the fire that we just lit coming up and, you know, just kissing the outside of this thermometer, which is making it read 250, but the dome is completely cool to the touch. So I'm gonna wait till we get two things, seeing 250 as well as some heat in the dome, and then we'll go ahead and install our deflector plates and start to adjust our vent settings. We've got some work to do to season up this pork picnic while this comes up to temperature. Let's go inside and get that ready to go.
So I'm going to start off by making a couple incisions, just so that there's a little bit more surface area to form some bark and get a little bit of a nice texture when we bite into our pulled pork later on today. I'm using yellow mustard as a binder and Fogo black as a rub. And then after we get our picnic roast all seasoned up, I'm going to go ahead and slide in our meter probe to keep track of today's cook. Just make sure to avoid the bone when you slide that in, as that can give you a false reading.
So where this is landing, our Junior is a lean, mean, air-breathing machine, and it's been rocking this cook for about 8 hours already. What's that? Don't believe me? Want to take a look? How do you like them apples? Let me move the camera a little closer. Oh, I like the sounds of that. Let's check that out. So we got our SmokeWare drip pan in action. Our meter probe has been keeping this cook in check all day. And you want to talk about great bark. Look at that. Just passed the scratch test. It's not coming off. Feels amazing. So I haven't sprayed this or wrapped it. We're just letting it ride low and slow all day, and I could not be more excited. Anyways, if we're looking, we're not cooking, so let me go ahead and close this dome. All right, I promise it hasn't been as long as the daylight suggests. That's just fall here in Canada. Let me bring the camera a little bit closer so you can check out the probe feel that I'm describing. And so what we're looking for is not a specific temperature, more just how our probe feels. And what I'm looking for is if we took our Thermapen here and we just probed a jar of peanut butter. That's exactly what I want our pork picnic to feel like. I don't want to go much softer than that. If we were to downgrade from peanut butter to say just warm room temperature butter, what that would start to do is be a little bit mushy feel. So this, I think, is the perfect temperature for getting a great shred, but at the same time still having a little bit of texture to it and preserving our bark. So come a little closer, I'll show you what we've got, and we'll go ahead and start to pull this apart and do a little bit of a taste test. All right, time for my favorite part of the night, the taste test. And I can already tell from shredding this that our low and slow method has worked amazing. So this has no sauce. So normally what we would do is just whip up a bit of a North Carolina vinegar-based pulled pork sauce, mix it in, shred it, and serve it. So this is just coming right off the bone on the plate, ran back outside, ready to share with you how we did. So I'm excited to try it. Let's get in there. A little bit of our bark as well as some of that shred. I'm sorry for that little moment of ecstasy, but that is incredible. Incredible. Well worth the more than 12 hours wait for this. Amazing. So low and slow, no wrap. We didn't even spray this. We just let it ride all day. And so what's hitting me, first of all, just a touch of that salt. So again, we dry brine this. It's got, not overbearing by any means, it's got that salt profile. And I think when we cut it with a bit of that vinegar, North Carolina sauce, it'll even pop more than it already is, which is hard to believe. And then that rub that we've got on the side just adds some of that garlic and a little bit of pepper flavor. It's really coming through. Now, if you didn't know already, the binders, you rarely ever taste your binder. The only time I've ever had it is if we go crazy hot sauce. So if you go, instead of something like a Frank's or a buffalo sauce, and you go for like a Megadeth hot sauce, that you will taste. But in normal, you don't taste your binder. It just adds a little bit of something on the back of your tongue. You'll never place it, whether it was mustard or olive oil or a little hot sauce or duck fat spray. So I tend to like olive oil and fat-based sprays for leaner cuts than a pulled pork. Something like a brisket or a chuck roast is really, really good. When I'm doing a fattier cut, something like a pulled pork, I tend to avoid the olive oils or the duck fat sprays, and instead I prefer something like a mustard or a hot sauce. Anyways, I hope you really enjoyed today's video, because I'm really going to enjoy today's dinner. And if you did, please go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe to catch future videos. Until then, I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue signing off, and remember, don't be afraid to fire it up. Ooh boy. Yep.